All right. I just wanted to say a quick hello. I'm a real person. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'll turn off my camera so we can focus on my slides. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be talking about some of the week 3 material from about 2 to 4. Like I said, we might get finished a little bit early, depending on if we take a little break in the middle or not. So for those of you who are not in my class, my name is Stephanie Fetrin. I am one of the Psychology of Play instructors. You'll be hearing from a different one of us each week, as if you've probably noticed that already. So here's just a couple pictures of me on the end here. This was at a cardboard challenge day we had at Full Sail, where we just kind of got together with people that we don't typically work with, and we were in teams, and we had to make some type of something from our childhood out of recyclable materials. And it was a lot of fun, and it definitely was something that helped boost our creativity and just kind of made the day at work go by a little bit faster. And someone can't hear me. Can everyone hear me? Okay, just want to make sure. All right, so it just might be that your volume is turned down. Okay, so not only do we talk about the value of play in this class, but we also value play here at Full Sail, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. So this is what we're going to be covering today. We're going to talk about motivation, what motivates us. We're going to learn about gamification and how we can use that in the workplace and in our personal lives. We're going to talk about playing in the workplace and how those two things fit together. And then we're going to be doing some work on learning your conflict management styles and doing a little activity that we can all do together. So hopefully we'll have some fun. And this lecture goes by really fast if you guys participate in the chat box, and I'll be asking for volunteers on the microphone later. So please feel free to jump in and ask questions along the way and participate. So let's jump in and get started talking about motivation. So Daniel Pink wrote a book, and we talk about him in our reading materials for this week, called A Whole New Mind. And he's an American author, and he's written books about business, work, and management. But a lot of his research is based in psychology and behavior, analyzing behaviors of people. So he explains that we're living in a time when traits like imagination and creativity are the utmost important in business, because what we are in is the conceptual age. So if you think about it, in the same way machines have kind of replaced our bodies in doing certain types of jobs, software is replacing our left brains by doing logical sequential work. We don't need to do that by hand anymore, right? So we're no longer also in the information age, because we have all of the information we could possibly ever want at our fingertips. We just pick up our phone and search anything, and we can find the information immediately. So now what businesses are valuing in their employees are different characteristics, such as, your ability to be creative and improvise and have empathy and invent new ideas and big picture thinking, which is more of that right brain hemisphere type qualities. So those are the skills that are actually becoming the most important in the business world. So today we're going to kind of talk about how we can strengthen our creativity and how play can really play a big part in that. So according to Dan Pink, what motivates us? Well, he says we're not as predictable as you might think. So I'm going to go ahead and put a poll out. Let's see. What do you guys think? I put a poll. You should see a poll on your screen. Do you think monetary rewards make people work harder? What do you think? Just a simple yes or no. Don't overthink it. Just what's your gut reaction? Go ahead and vote right on your screen, not in the chat box. Okay, 75% of you have voted already. So if you haven't voted, go ahead and do that now. Give you guys another 10 seconds. All right, let me go ahead and close the poll. So 83% of you voted, And 67% of you believe that yes, monetary rewards make you work harder, and 33% say no. Well, we might traditionally think that, well, of course, money is going to make us work harder. Like, that's a great incentive. We all like money. Who doesn't like money? This is the money makes the world go round kind of thing. But actually, what the research shows and what Dan Pink has come to understand is that we are not as predictable. You know, he brings up the point that we might think that if you work in a company and that bosses giving monetary rewards and bonuses would encourage people to work harder towards their goals, it's not necessarily true. There's a misconception about the reasons why people work and what motivates them, and we're going to look at a few examples of the research that has been done about this. So we're going to talk about the candle problem, but before I let you guys tell me about that, I want you to tell me, what is the difference between intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation? So hopefully this is something that you might have already known about or that you read about in our materials for this week. I see someone has their hand raised. Okay, Tristan. I can unmute you. All right, you just have to unmute yourself on your end.
So the difference is one's internal, one's external. So the value is internal versus external value.
Exactly. That's the most simple way to describe it perfectly. Thank you very much. Let's see what we say in the chat box. Christina says, one, you care about what's going on, and the other, you don't care. Okay. Felicia, self-motivation versus motivation for tangible things. Terrence says, motivate yourself to higher goals. Okay, motivate yourself to higher goals. I'm not sure which one you're referring to there. But basically, intrinsic motivation is doing something for its inherent satisfaction or enjoyment rather than some external consequence. So doing something because it makes you feel good or doing something because it provides you meaning. Those would be things that would be intrinsic motivation. Valeria says, you do it because you like it, and the other one, there's an external reward. Okay. And then our extrinsic motivation is doing something because it leads to a separable outcome or reward. So you're doing something only for that outcome, that end goal, and not necessarily the experience of that activity. Make sense? So I'm curious what motivates you guys. So I want you to take out a piece of paper or just write down on your phone or just somewhere these questions. You could even type it out into the chat box if you would like to share, but you don't have to. But just make sure you put all of your answers together so that I can keep track, because there's 40 of us in here, so we don't want the chat box to go too quick. I won't be able to see what you guys write. So number one, what is something that motivates you? Okay. Something that motivates you towards your goals. Number two, is it intrinsic or extrinsic? And then number three, what are most people motivated by, in your opinion? Intrinsic or extrinsic factors. And four, which works best? Intrinsic or extrinsic motivation? So I see Terrence said my daughter. So if you could go through and tell us the rest of the answers, just number them if you want in the chat box. It helps. Just put them all together. So I'll give you guys a minute to do that. And if it's easier for you to explain on the chat box, that's fine too. I mean, or raise your hand. Sometimes it's easier to just verbally say out loud the responses. Okay, so I see Felicia, hope I'm saying your name right. Number one, music and nature. Ashley says something that motivates you is Disney music. and that's intrinsic. You believe most people are motivated by extrinsic factors, and you think that intrinsic works better. Yeah. And I'm sure that you all, as we can see, as we're starting to see, might have different opinions about that, right? But I want you to be able to at least identify something that motivates you and be able to determine if it's intrinsic or extrinsic, because as you're going through your degree programs and you're going through school, you're going to sometimes lose your motivation, right? That happens to the best of us. So it's important that we think about what motivates us so that when we get into that place, we're able to move past it and reflect on, okay, well, why am I doing this? Why am I at Full Sail? Why am I here? Why am I getting into this field? And is it intrinsic or extrinsic? Because what the research is finding is that extrinsic rewards are good motivators for the short term, but really intrinsic things are the things that are going to keep us motivated in the long term. Does anyone want to raise their hand and share? I know I missed a lot of you guys in the chat box as I was talking. Let's see. Christopher says a bright future, and he says that's intrinsic. He thinks most people are motivated by intrinsic, and which works best, intrinsic. It seems like a lot of you are saying for number 4, intrinsic works better, right? And because of what I just said, right? If we were all just motivated by a paycheck, we probably wouldn't be here, and we wouldn't be seeking out of a career at Full Sail or a degree from Full Sail to get into a career if you were just motivated by money. Charles said, let's see, Antonio says video games motivate him. It's intrinsic. He thinks most people are motivated by extrinsic factors, and which works best, intrinsic. Okay, so it seems like a lot of you think that intrinsic works best. But we might have a view of other people that, hey, there are people out there, and these questions are not right or wrong. There's no it's not black or white, right? A lot of us are motivated by both, right? I mean, obviously it's nice to have a paycheck, and we're going to be looking for jobs that we can, support ourselves and our families, right? But hopefully it's something that's also something we enjoy doing, something that brings us that internal gratification, right? All right, so let's move on from this. It's something that you can still think about as we're talking about the candle problem and what motivates us to solve problems. So if you didn't read about the candle problem yet in the readings, it's basically an experiment that was done by a psychologist named Carl Dunker. So participants were asked, okay, you have these items in front of you. You need to fix a lit candle on a wall in a way that the candle wax won't drip onto the table below. Okay? So, does anyone know how to do this? How do you solve this problem? So if you watch the video in the readings, you definitely know what happened. Ashley says, use the box. Okay. How to use the box. Okay. Valeria says, take them out of the box. Use the tacks to pin the box on the wall, says Janice. Exactly. So you pin the box on the wall, put the candle in it, and light it. Exactly. So, if we had the time to sit and think about this, yeah, we would all probably be able to figure it out at some point. Not super complicated, right? However, that wasn't the only part of this experiment. It was more than just solving the problem. So there was 2 groups. One is called the low drive group, and one was called the high drive group. So the low drive group in the study just said, hey, we're doing an experiment on problem solving. Can you volunteer to participate? Okay. The high drive group was told, based on how quickly they could solve the problem, they could win money, and only the top 25% would win these cash prizes. So there was limited resources, and they had to be on their game in order to get this cash prize. So in this situation, I'm going to put a poll out. Which group do you think solved the problem faster? Go ahead and vote right there in the poll. All right, 83% of you voted that's the same as what it was before. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. All right, 71% of you believe that the high drive group that got a reward solved the problem faster. Well, think of what we just talked about in terms of extrinsic and intrinsic motivators. So obviously the high drive group is being rewarded extrinsically, right, for this behavior, for solving this problem. And the low drive group, they're just doing it just to take part in the experience and see if they can solve the problem, right? So based on that, what we've been talking about, intrinsic and extrinsic motivation, what actually happened was when the high drive group was offered a reward, right? It took them 3 minutes longer to solve the problem. So most of you guys were wrong. But that's okay. So why do you think that is, for those of you who were correct? Why do you think that the low drive group was faster? Daryl says no pressure. So does Trishan. Uh, No pressure, no stress to figure it out. I'm reading what you guys are writing in the chat box. The stress, the incentive caused. Okay, made it harder, I guess. Ashlyn says freedom to use creativity for the low drive group. Or Seth said it was for fun. Yeah, right. You're just trying to solve this problem. Interest in figuring it out, says Courtney. Charles says the task was clear with no pressure. George said they didn't have anything to lose. Ah, good point. Tristan said, not a self-centered motivation. Okay, exactly. You guys got it right. So what it was found that if you turned it into a competition for limited resources, it created stress, right? And then when you are under that type of stress, the fight or flight response kicks in, takes over our brain and body, and it shuts down that creative thinking and problem-solving area of the brain in the prefrontal cortex, which you learned about last week. So this experiment shows that actually rewards can narrow our focus and restrict our possibilities, right? Not what most of you would typically think. So less creative for sure. So test after retest continues to show that if the task is mechanical, like let's say you work on an assembly line, right? And you're just doing the same repeated thing over and over again. Well, yes, then monetary rewards work fine because you're focused and you're just doing the same task. But when it comes to tasks that require creativity, it's the opposite effect. So he argues that higher money is not always a good incentive. Yes, we want money. It's important. But if you just dangle it in front of us, thinking it's going to be the best motivator as an employee, it's not necessarily the case, the performance. So let's say I say to you guys in here, the person who creates the most innovative t-shirt design for psychology of play will receive $1,000. I give you a deadline by the end of the day today, right? What is going to happen in this type of situation? You might initially feel motivated with that $1,000, right? But yeah, rushed work, people will stress, says Ashley. Daryl said it will end badly. Yeah, you could get really competitive with a big sum of money like that, right? Mistakes, says Lenisha. Charles says not a lot of creativity, right? Richard says focus on the money and not the process. Exactly. Frustration. Leave the shirt blank. Not putting enough thought into the design, says Courtney. Exactly. So you guys got the idea, right? Money isn't the best motivator. So if money doesn't motivate us, and it wouldn't in this situation, that's what we're learning. Yeah, obviously someone would have to win, right? But are you going to come up with your most creative idea? Maybe not. Maybe if I gave you more time and had everyone share their work with each other or work together, we would come up with something a little bit more creative. So according to the candle problem, what would be the result of this scenario? We pretty much figured it out. So if money doesn't motivate us, it does, right? We're not saying it doesn't, but what is that intrinsic motivation that we've been talking about, and why is that important? So Dan Pink goes on to discuss further in the animated video about his book Drive, which is in the reading as well. The secret to high performance is the drive to do things for their own sake. So this is autonomy, right? People want to be self-directed. People don't want to be micromanaged. You don't want, we've all probably had a boss that has been like over our shoulder, like, hey, did you do this yet? Did you do this yet? Oh, what about this? Or, let me look at that. Or, they don't trust that you can do it on your own and do what you say. You don't have that sense of autonomy. You feel like micromanaged, right? That's not very motivating, is it? Right? When your boss is always checking on you, making sure it's the way they want it to be. And then number two is mastery, which is basically saying we have the urge and this innate desire to get better at things that we enjoy, right? You want to create, you want to make music or films or art that is satisfying to you, right? And you want to be the best at it, right? You're probably not here at Full Sail because you want to be an average, mediocre person in your field, right? You're wanting to master it. You're wanting to be the best, and that is something that is a strong drive for us. And then the third thing is purpose. You want to have a sense of meaning in what you're doing. You're not just doing it to get a paycheck, right? You're not just doing it because you like it. It's more than that. It gives you a sense of purpose. It fulfills you, right? People want a reason to go to work because they like what they're doing, right? And companies that are flourishing right now are those which are animated by this purpose motive. Just like in the reading, it talks about that why factor, or actually going to be talking about that next week. But my question to you is, have these things come into your mind when you're picking out a career? Does anyone want to share um, how they relate to one of these three motivators or all of them in terms of why you're here at Full Sail? All right. Oh, good. I got Tristan again. I'm going to unmute you. You're on the air.
So my career for the last 20 years has basically been a principal of these three items. I've been in the film industry, and I'm going to Full Sail this year or this term to be a cinematographer, to expand that creative ability. So I don't have to rely on a company to go out and shoot something I have in my mind. I can actually take my cameras and go do it.
Yeah, that definitely fits in with mastery, wanting to be able to do it on your own and be the best at it. And then autonomy, not having to answer to other people and kind of do your own films the way you want to do it. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yep, basically. But
Yeah. And
also, I've been on the innovative side of the technology side of the industry for the last
mhm.
20 years. So I'm utilizing this also to expand VR and AR technology.
Okay, cool. So maybe that
Yep.
ties into your purpose, your meaning behind it because you want to get better in those areas.
They're just funner toys to play with.
Hey, that's a good motivator. All
That's
right.
intrinsic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else want to share? Do do. Okay, let's see in the chat box. Janice says, I want to create something I truly feel proud of and that creates a positive impact for my son and kids like him. Yes, that definitely sounds like it gives you a sense of purpose. I'm curious what you want to make, what degree program you're getting into. All right, let me see. Daryl, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead, Daryl. You just have to unmute yourself on your end.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Um, hey, I don't know. I've been fascinated with sports since I was 5 years old,
Hmm.
and like until like recently, I never knew like the ins and outs about how the marketing thing was until I started doing rugby and being like a president. So it motivated me a whole lot as far as like it gave me a lot of purpose as far as to want to do something in the field and be able to master my craft and what I want to do. And it gave, I think not only that, but it gave me a lot of insight and helpfulness to want me to pursue my whole dream of like, as part of marketing for a rugby team, especially down here in the South, because there's not much of that here.
Cool. So I definitely heard you mentioning some things that related to purpose and then mastery, being here to like learn a craft to get better at that type of marketing. And then, that's going to lead into autonomy, right? Because then you're going to be able to be more autonomous once you have those skills.
Indeed.
All right. Thank you for sharing, Daryl. And let's hear from one more. Ashley, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay. So, what I want to do is I've always had a very creative mind since I was a child,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't have kids in real life, so I want to make a world for kids, like it used to be in the olden days. So
Okay.
that's what I want to do. I want to bring like a game to life or something, and bring my story out to share and uh, show people that they can do it.
Awesome. Definitely sounds like number 3 is big for you. Your core motivator. Awesome. Thanks for sharing, Ashley. And I want you to maybe write this down somewhere, or hopefully you'll remember this when you're way further down in your program and you're thinking about, oh God, like, why am I doing this? This is hard. Like, I didn't realize it was going to be this hard, because you're going to have those moments. You're at the beginning now, but it is going to get more challenging as you get further into your programs, and you might be thinking, I'm lacking that motivation. Just remember this talk that we're having today and say, hey, this is why I'm doing it. Remember that purpose that you have and that you shared. I can hear how passionate you guys are about what it is that you want to do. So that's going to help you keep that motivation going as you progress. So let's move on to fun theory. Why not, right? Okay, we talked about motivation. And one thing that we can do, a simple thing that you can do to boost your motivation, is just have fun. Fun is actually the easiest way to change people's behaviors for the better. So if you need a little boost, play is where it's at. So, think about how you can make everyday activities more fun. I have an example. If you go to the material section and click on piano stairs, it will take you to a video. So go ahead and watch that video now and then type done in the chat box when you're finished. All right, it looks like most of you guys are finished. So, fun, right? something that people get lazy on their daily commute. They take the escalator because it's easier, right? You can stare at your phone while riding where you need to go. But if going up and down the stairs was fun, and if it was a piano, you'd be more likely to change your behavior and take the stairs instead and get a little bit of exercise, right? So it's fun theory is basically just making something that's not so exciting in your daily life a little bit more fun to help motivate or change behaviors. So let's talk about gamification, which basically is a more advanced version of this fun theory. I think I have a picture on here. Well, first we're going to talk about the definition. So applying elements of games to non-game contexts, such as workplace productivity, marketing, educational, or personal challenges. So it's basically used in pretty much all facets of society. The end goal is to get our audience engaged and turn something that feels like work into play, right? Using things like game mechanics like leaderboards, top 10 lists, badges, competitions, leveling up, points, challenges, virtual currency, progress bars. All of these things are being used in non-game like settings. Here's an example, a very simple example. This is in a retail store. It says cashiers can remove a hanger in 5.2 seconds. Can you do it faster? Please remove your hangers and leave them here. Thank you. So kind of challenging you to do something that they like people to do, leaving their hangers hanging up after their purchases, right? Kind of like a little challenge to get people incentivized. Then we have nitrotype.com. This is another example of a website that helps you get better with your typing or words per minute. You can compete against people all over the world and get, go up levels and be able to buy things for your little car and have friends and achievements and leaderboards. But basically, it's what it boils down to is it is something to help you learn to type faster. So what are some other examples? Let's take a look at a video from our favorite person. First, we're going to watch the one, if you go to materials section and you go to ice cream toilet, we're going to watch that one first. It's actually from a show that Dan Pink created on National Geographic. So go ahead and watch that and type done in the chat box when you're finished. All right. Looks like you guys are finishing up. So, what is a great way to change a negative behavior? Like, let's say peeing in a pool? Well, make it fun to not pee in the pool, right? Use some game mechanics, use something fun to change people's behavior. So, yes, like ice cream. Who doesn't me like ice cream? That was weird. I know, but it's kind of a funny example because I show different examples every couple months because I get sick of watching the same videos over and over again. But he has some other examples too. If you look through some of the other videos from National Geographic that he's done, that's just one example. There's also I think I have in your reading the poo poo meter, where you put the dog's poop from the dog park into the little trash can, and it has like a little meter thing. It made people pick up the dog poop more. Okay. Anyway, clearly poop and pee are things that I talk about a lot because I have 2 toddlers. So it's just where my mind's at. I apologize for my examples. So why don't we look at some more examples then, so you guys aren't like like, what is she talking about? But it's also used a lot with exercising. A lot of people don't enjoy exercising. How can you make exercising fun? Well, I know right now I have my Fitbit on. Let's see how many steps I have today. Oh my gosh, I'm doing horrible today. I only have 4,500 steps. I usually try to get to 10, but I still have some time. So I use a Fitbit and I do challenges with some of the with my colleagues here at Full Sail, and we try to beat each other each week and do these challenges so we can motivate ourselves to get up out of our desks and walk around. Especially when we're teaching our online sections, we're in front of our computers for a significant part of the day. So it gets us up and moving around and gets us some fresh air. So we're more motivated to get our grading done with you guys' work. So that's one example. Another example is it's used a lot of times now in like language learning is something that's typically hard for people to do, but there's a lot of apps like Duolingo and Mind Snacks and Bubble, and Bumble, or not Bumble, I forget what it's called, Babbel, that's it, Babbel, that have apps that make learning a language fun. You have different challenges and you can go up levels and get badges when you complete things like that. So another example, and these are examples I just have noticed, but of course you guys are probably thinking of your own right now. But there's this really great video I found, and it's in your material section under gamification, that kind of ties up these concepts that we've been talking about, about motivation and how that fits in with gamification. So I think that he kind of explains a little bit better than I can. So why don't we go to the material section, click on the gamification video, watch that, and then type done in the chat box when you're finished. I haven't seen if anyone's finished yet. I forget how long this video is. You guys finished? Okay, I'll give you another minute. Sorry. Sorry. All right, sorry, I jumped the gun. I forgot how long the video was. So I hope that just gave us a good little recap of what gamification is all about, some different examples of ways that it's used, and I'm sure this is something that you're going to be noticing now that you know this word for it. So we've talked a little bit about how play can be used in the workplace in terms of gamification. So for this last leg of our lecture, or the first half anyway, I'm going to talk about some leaders in the play movement who've really done a fantastic job of mixing work and play, because it's all about creating an environment where people enjoy working and creating, because happy people are productive people, right? So I know you're probably sick of watching clips, so we're going to save this one, and if we have time, we can watch it later, but it's from the movie Big. It's a fictional example, so we'll save that one for a little bit later. But what are the benefits of using work and play together in the workplace? It boosts morale, raises productivity, right? People are happy, they're going to be more productive. Increases creativity if people are in a playful environment. Fosters teamwork. People are more likely to work together and be more sociable. It can optimize work quality, reinforce desired behaviors, right? So employers can encourage things in a fun way that they would like to see more of, and it promotes engagement, right? So let's think of some examples of companies that do this. These are just a couple, but I'm sure some of you guys, if you've done any research, might know of some other ones. But obviously Google is kind of the leader of the pack and one of the first companies that really embraced work and play. And these companies, for sure, Google's philosophy is literally to create the happiest, most productive workplace in the world. At Google, and there's different campuses, they have let people design their own workstations. People can write on the walls, they play games, they have fun. They have scooters or bikes to get around the campuses. They basically have everything very open, lots of different collaboration rooms with different fun themes. They want it to be an open environment where people are more likely to talk to each other, come up with new ideas, interact. Basically, they really push the boundaries of where play ends and work begins. And when I was out in Amazon Vans, Alorica, some other examples. Tristan says DC. Yeah, so there's some other companies that you guys can probably think of that have these playful environments. And, these companies these look like fun places to work, right? I mean, if you're going to go to the office and enjoy these things and then have your lunch provided for you and laundry, and you can bring your pet there, and, there's all of this, we're providing you with all the things that you need, then you're going to be more productive, right? Because you can stay at the office longer because you're not racing home from your boring job to go home and can't wait counting down the minutes to get out of there, So they have Lego PlayStations, they have ladders connecting floors, different, more creative ways to get around the building, right? You can bring your pet to work, all different kinds of cool stuff. Another example is Zappos. They have it's like a retail company, and it's a $1 billion retail business. They have 1,400 employees, and they have an open communication culture that inspires employee engagement. So they really value this playfulness. And even in there, if you look up on their website, they have listed their core values of the company. And just for example, here's one. I'll read it. It says, Create fun and a little weirdness. Okay. Imagine if your company's like, it's all right for you guys to be a little weird. Like, we encourage that, you know. Do more with less and deliver wow through service. So they do all kinds of like team building activities like cookouts and Easter egg hunts in the office and just kinds of random fun stuff. But you know, it's interesting, their interview process. So to get hired there, there's 2 interviews. One to see if you meet the qualifications for the job, and the other one to see if you fit in with the Zappos culture. So at the end of the training that everyone receives after the first interview, they offer, hey, okay, everyone that completed this training, here is your pay for your time that you spent, and we will also give you an additional $2,000 bonus if you quit right now. So basically, you're hired, you got through the program. Now, if you want this money, then you can quit. Because they don't want people who are there for the paycheck. They want people that are there because they like the culture, they believe in the values of the company, and that's going to create a more productive, happier, creative workforce, right? So these companies are really, really getting it. Here's another one, real life example of Dropbox. They have a very playful office. I have a video in the material section that I'll let you guys watch when we take a little break in a minute. It says Inside Dropbox, so save that for a little bit later. But basically shows you, gives you a tour with the CEO through their office space. They have a whole music room where there's like a full drum set and studio where you can jam out when you want a break. They have like cool napping areas, resting areas. They have creative areas like here. Like imagine you're at a meeting and you just start playing with Legos. Like I would love that. And actually, we do that at Full Sail. We had one meeting where we were making foam. It's like this like foam stuff with little balls in it, and we were just like making foam for like an hour. And you know, so we try to do fun stuff here at Full Sail, not only talking about this in our class, but on our team. We definitely have a lot of fun with with the psychology of play instructor. So it's very important, and it creates a happier workforce, as we've been talking about. So this is like the new well, the companies that are doing it, obviously, not all companies are doing this, right? But the ones that are really paying attention to Dan Pink and other researchers out there that are seeing how this is good for employees, they're really paying attention. They're following along. So before we move on to talking about conflict, we're going to take a quick break. So it's 2:52. So let's come back at 2:57. So that's 5 minutes. That'll give you guys time to take a little bathroom break, get some coffee or water, and watch the Dropbox video if you have time, and the big video. Okay, so I'll see you back here at 2:57. All right, 2:57. You love my exact time. But hey, I didn't want to waste too much time. I know you guys probably have other things to do this afternoon. So let's move on and power through our last half. We're going to be talking all about conflict management style, and why that is important. So hopefully you guys got a chance to watch the Dropbox video or the big video. The big clip is kind of a good example of how sometimes as adults we take ourselves a little bit too seriously, right? And let's imagine we're working at a toy company like he is, and a little bit of backstory about Big is it's about a boy who's maybe like 10 or 12, and he wishes that he's Big on this machine at a carnival, and he wakes up to being in the body of a grown man, or in his older self, and obviously his mom is freaked out, and he runs off and ends up living in New York City and getting this job at a toy company. And as you can see in this meeting, he's very playful and comes up with creative ideas, and kind of really highlights that in that video. So if you haven't watched that movie, it's pretty cute. I'd recommend it. And who doesn't love Tom Hanks? So you can. Sorry, I'm dating you guys for those of you who remember this movie. But yeah, so just check it out. All right, so let's talk about conflict. Well, all these brilliant companies we were talking about, Dropbox, Google, um, conflict can be costly to a company, right? If you have people that aren't agreeing and can't make decisions, that can cause problems. And not only is conflict present in companies, but it's also present, you're going to have conflicts with your family members, with your significant others, with your kids if you have them, with in your workplace environment. I mean, conflict is just a normal part of dealing with other people, right? But it's also associated in a work environment with emotional fatigue, absenteeism, and turnover. So it is something that companies are wanting to avoid. So it's important that when you guys go and get out into your fields, that you are able to deal with conflict appropriately for the situation. So what is conflict? Well, it's just a transactional process between two people who perceive incompatible goals, scarce resources, or interference in achieving their objectives. So not necessarily a bad thing, right? I mean, conflict is what it is. Like it's going to happen. It's not necessarily bad, but it is something that we need to learn how to kind of address when it arises. So before we talk about how to do that, I'm going to create some conflict. Dun, dun, dun. We're going to do a little activity. I am going to present you, this class of 44 attendees, with an ethical dilemma that you need to solve. So I'm going to read it out loud to you now, and feel free to read along. So this is our dilemma as a team. We are the team. After being cut out of the wolf's belly, Red Riding Hood's grandmother sends Red back home by a different road. Grandmother doesn't mention that the road is rumored to have many dangers, especially a troll. Red Riding Hood is on her way back from grandmother's house, and when she passes a friend of hers, Goldilocks, who has just narrowly escaped the troll living under the bridge up ahead, Red and Goldilocks talk about the weather and the wolves and bears, and then they both head on their way, but Goldilocks does not warn Red about the troll she is about to face. As Red approaches the bridge with a troll under it, she finds an old beggar and offers him some bread. The beggar thanks you, but also doesn't say a word about the troll, although he too knows it is there. Red Riding Hood then crosses the bridge, which is guarded on the far end by a knight, but he is drunk and has passed out on his shift. Red Riding Hood is looking up at the clouds, not paying attention at all, and the troll, who is rather slow and loud, is able to sneak up on her, kill her, and eat her without anyone even noticing, not even Red. Your group's task is to determine who is to blame for Red's fate and in what order, with rank 1 being the character whose fault it is the most, and rank 6 being the character whose fault it is the least. So you have 10 minutes. So I'm going to set a timer. Now, because I can't unmute all of you because there's too many people in here, I'm going to be asking for 5 volunteers that want to be the team leader and kind of speak for the group. It's your job to come up with the list and also read the input in the chat box from your classmates and make that final decision. So if you would like to be a team leader, go ahead and raise your hand. All right, so far I have Ashley, Christian, Melody. Need 2 more people. Come on, brave souls. Okay, we got Janice. Okay, and we need 1 more. Still need 1 more. Okay, guess we're gonna have 4 team leaders. You guys are in charge. Oh, we have 1 more. Belicia. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and unmute you guys. Make sure you are unmuted on your end as well. So far, it looks like everyone is, except Melody. You need to unmute yourself. Okay, and yep, okay. I think we're all good now. So I'm gonna go ahead and set the timer. I'm gonna set it for 10 minutes, okay? And I'm gonna mute myself so you guys don't hear me. All right, go ahead.
Hi.
Hey.
I have absolutely no idea how people are chosen.
I think we're supposed to all just give feedback.
Okay.
I think Red's to blame. I'm gonna put her at the top.
That's what mine was too. Was Red is the major one to blame because she should have been paying attention to what she was in the first place.
Yeah.
Having just been eaten in the first place, you would think she would have put brain rather than just dancing around and not paying attention. I mean.
Yeah. I have to say that too. Like, she should have asked me questions after her first experience.
And well, for me, I also had Red, then I had a grandmother. And then I had Goldilocks because that's supposed to be her friend. The knight, the beggar, then the troll. So I don't know. I feel like I guess role of responsibility. If you're supposed to be, I mean, at the end of the day, you are responsible for yourself, like every choice that you make, and you expect other people to look out for you. So I just rank the rest based on where they fit in her life and how they play a role in her life. Because the troll is just worrying about Eden, so he's not going to be concerned about anyone.
He's really not responsible because he already knew what he was doing in the first place. So that's not his responsibility. He was already doing his responsibility. It wasn't really anyone else's responsibility to tell Red that was of their own.
Exactly.
Now the grandmother should have been like, well, be careful on your way home, because that's just what grandmothers do, but no, the responsibility lies on Red by herself because she is the one that walked into the hole and got herself.
So after listening to you guys talk, can I just jump in here? I'm sorry. After listening to you guys talk just now, I realized that I'm changing my first person responsible to actually the grandmother. We are responsible for ourselves, but I think she already showed she wasn't responsible by getting eaten by the wolf to begin with. So the grandmother should have never sent her out alone again without clear, proper instructions.
Okay, in the comments, everybody that Red is already there. The grandmother was eaten by the wolf already, and the whole point is she was, spit back out. The grandmother was the main responsibility for telling Red to be careful home.
Yeah, I see a lot of people saying that too. The grandma's responsible.
But even if you see trauma, that should make you a bit more aware and discerning. My grandmother just got eaten by a wolf. Clearly, the woods is a dangerous place for me. I should be careful.
Who's gonna walk by themselves anyway after watching somebody just get eaten in the first place? I mean, who's not going to pay attention to that?
Why does the troll have no responsibility in this thing?
Because he
Yeah, I
already did
kind of
what
point.
he was supposed to do.
No, because he could have said, "Hey, watch up there, for like, yo, watch yourself." Like that's what normal, like you know, you
No,
would
it's not
expect
if the
it.
troll was hungry.
True.
If the troll was hungry, he did exactly what he was supposed to do. He knew exactly what he was doing, so he's not responsible.
Well, if we take that into account, like if we have a criminal in society, a criminal wants to commit a crime, but they're still responsible for it. Like we
That's
can't
true.
say the troll is just dumb, like because we don't know too much about the troll. I mean, he might be a really smart troll.
I mean, but
Yeah,
I
that
would
would be
say,
That
the
was a good point.
but I would say one thing. If I know that there's a criminal in my yard, I am not gonna leave my door open, unlocked, and be like, I have a new TV. Yes.
But how do
This
you
is
know? How do you know that one of them other ones wasn't a criminal? Because the drunken guy, what's his problem? He's drunk and passed out. He ain't paying no attention.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's
He's
clearly a
just
problem for
there.
society when a Red Riding Hood can run across a wolf and a troll in like the same day. So I
I
mean,
know.
there's big problems going on, but I think the troll is the most responsible. I mean, because Goldilocks, or sorry, Red Riding Hood is just a kid. Like, she's just running into
But
problems.
how do you know that Red Riding Hood is just a kid? How do you know that it's a kid?
Yeah,
You don't
it
know
doesn't
that.
say that
It
detail.
That's
never,
true.
it never, it never says that Red Riding Hood is a kid.
You're right.
You're right. You're right.
But
Yeah,
then,
it doesn't.
see, I can't blame the troll because the troll is doing what it does. It's like if
It's
a gazelle
already knew
gets
what it
eaten
was
by a
going to
lion,
Yeah.
the lion,
do.
like
It
that's
already
his
knew what it was.
DNA.
It already knew its responsibility. Its responsibility was to eat somebody. Well, he had the choice of who he was going to eat, and apparently Goldilocks wasn't somebody he wanted to eat. So he decided to eat Red Riding Hood. What is it with Red Riding Hood being eat?
Yeah, that's what he was going to do. He was still responsible for it, though. I'm not saying he didn't want to do it or he was willing to do it.
He's responsible for eating her, but it wasn't his responsibility to say, "Hey, I'm hungry. I'm about to eat you."
That's true. What about
I mean,
the beggar?
the beggar. I don't know. That was the throw off because he should have been a little more humble with her giving him the food. Being
Why?
like,
I think that the beggar. She's right though. I think that the beggar, if she gave him the food, he should have been like, okay, thank you for food. By the way, be mindful of the troll. But maybe he
He
didn't do
thought she
that
already
because he
knew.
assumed that the knight was going to protect her, but he was
Yeah.
drunk.
Yeah, out of those two people, I would think the knight would be more responsible than the beggar.
Yeah.
but who says that
But
the
I
knight
do
is
think he
not
still had a
crook?
responsibility to say, to say.
That's because we're leaning on the main fairy tale that knights are supposed to be the responsible one, but it's like it wasn't the prince that Snow White fell in love with. It was Grumpy. That's what you got to look at it like. You got to think outside the box with it.
Or maybe the knight just didn't like his job, so that's why he behaved the way he did.
Can we look at the knight like a security guard?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I know
guarding the
back
bridge,
here,
but
a
he was on the
security
other
guard.
side.
Pardon?
He was guarding the bridge. That was his job, but he was on the other
Right.
side of the bridge. She hadn't got to him yet.
Yeah. Because I know from here, like where we're at, our security guards, they tell us their job is to make sure that the perimeter is safe.
Mhm.
They don't get paid dodging bullets for people. I kid you not, that's what we're told. So maybe he's that type of knight.
Yeah.
He's making sure that, no enemy is crossing the bridge. But his concern is not who's under the bridge. His concern, because he isn't concerned about the beggar either. He completely ignores the beggar. I'm pretty sure that's like soliciting or something. That's illegal, I think, in the forest, maybe.
I don't know if it falls on him, but if I'm hiring a knight to guard a bridge and if anybody dies on the bridge by a troll, I think
The
I'd
knight is
expect to be fired.
responsible. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm just gonna tell you guys what I wrote down, and then you guys can. I don't, what you guys think. So I put that the grandmother is responsible because she's the adult. We know that, the oldest. The second person is Red Riding Hood because she should have some self awareness by asking questions instead of just going off her merry way. Goldilocks is supposed to be a good friend and is always supposed to you're supposed to be a real friend. The knight has an actual job and responsibility, so he shouldn't be doing his job and supposed to be responsible drunk. And the beggar should have just been a good citizen.
Exactly. That works. I agree with that.
Where did the troll go?
The troll is just doing what he's just being who he is.
Yeah, the troll is doing his thing. He's already doing what he's responsible for. He was responsible for eating. He just wanted somebody to eat.
No, I know. I just wanted to make sure we have him as the beggar.
Goldilocks wasn't.
Yeah, I have him as the last one.
I can see what you're saying. The only thing I disagree with is that the troll is, just doing what he does. I think he probably has some decision in this whole thing.
I mean,
But,
maybe
if he doesn't, then he would get the end of it.
Mine too.
See, maybe if she had to save
responsible
that
for
bread,
eating her, but she's
Right,
also responsible for fighting back.
right? But I was also gonna say she could have saved that bread and gave it to the troll, and in exchange for eating her, if she hadn't given it to the beggar.
Ding, ding, ding. That 10 minutes went by fast, right? I'm sure we could.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could go longer. We could be like 30 minutes. Okay, so let me go ahead. I don't think that you guys came to a consensus, correct? On all 6.
No, we did.
Okay,
think
does
so.
someone
We
want to
good,
repeat
guys?
it real quick? Christopher says correct.
We said the grandmother, if I'm not mistaken. I think responsible, followed by Red, because she should be aware of herself. Her grandmother just suffered through trauma. She suffered through trauma. She should be aware. Goldilocks is following because that's her.
Okay, your sound cut out.
Yeah, cut out. Do you want me to jump in because her sound cut out?
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry. Can you jump in? Sorry.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, I'll jump in. So you was at Red Riding Hood, right?
Sure.
All right. So Red Riding Hood because she's supposed to be self-aware. Goldilocks because she's supposed to be a good friend. The knight because he had a responsibility to do a job that he slacked at. And the beggar because he should have been a good citizen and at least warned Red on, because she offered him the bread. And the troll was just doing his job. That's what we all agreed upon, right, guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's go back to our definition of conflict really quick. So conflict is a transactional process between people who perceive incompatible goals, scarce resources, or interference in achieving their objectives. So we could say the conflict was, having to decide, right, and all agree on what order. So what did you guys as team leaders think about the conflict that you experienced in that 10 minutes?
I think it was an awesome thing because they're able to take who was in and out of the box to be able to figure out which way it play out.
Okay. Anyone else? What was it like being a team leader, having this responsibility for 43 people to make this decision?
For me, it was pretty cool. It's but it was nice to listen to other people's ideas and thought and how their thought processes worked in the story, taking it out of the content that we normally would expect Red Riding Hood to be in.
Mm-hmm.
So that was nice.
So you're able to think of it in a different way.
I didn't feel like pressure or anything like that. Okay. Yeah, their thoughts allowed me to think about things in a different way.
Okay.
So I didn't feel like I was by myself trying to figure this out for 43 people.
Yeah. Right. All right. Let me mute you guys real quick so we can kind of discuss. Now, I want to hear from those of you in the chat box who are not leaders. I think it was Kelly above said, I do not agree, but they are our leaders, so I will let them say how they feel, LOL. If I wanted a voice, I would have raised my hand. Right. So those of you who chose not to be team leaders, right? Maybe based on how you handle conflict in general, or maybe that was just special for today, but did you agree with the team leader's decision? We know that Kelly didn't, because you guys were also sharing your thoughts, like, no, what about this? What about this in the chat box? Micah said no. Christopher said I did not. Okay. No. 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 So I feel like the team leaders sounded pretty optimistic about their ability to come up with this decision, but it sounds like people in the chat box are feeling like, okay, was who said it was stressful? Oh, Savannah's like, it was really stressful. LOL. Yeah. So some of us might feel kind of empowered, like, oh, this was fun. Like, I really enjoyed kind of figuring this out. And others of you might be like, oh my God, that was so stressful. Like, how am I going to make a decision? And the timer is ticking. And, it can create that flight or flight response when you're having this conflict. And we all have different experiences, right? Like, if you're a person that values the responsibility of a law enforcement, then you might be like, okay, well, this night was at Mar's fault or whatever. Like, everyone has their own personal experiences and values that shape how you view this dilemma, right? At who's at fault. And hearing other people, I think that's one of the things that you guys did a good job of, is listening to each other, right? Because when you have a conflict with other people, you sometimes need to say, okay, well, why? Why is the troll? Because you guys were both, some of you were like, well, the troll is definitely the most at fault. And other people are like, well, no, that's just the troll being a troll, right? So what conflict did you notice? So I noticed some conflict between the team leaders and the chat box. It is a lot of people trying to make a decision. So obviously, is there a possibility for everyone to be happy in this situation? No, right? But that was the point. That's why I did it, because I wanted you guys to experience a little bit of conflict to see how you handle it. I know some of you mentioned that your opinion changed, or you said, oh yeah, I didn't think about it that way. Yeah. And I think one of the leaders also even said, like, hey, yeah, now that you said that, I'm going to change my numbers, right? And that happens. Richard said the leaders are in the hot seat. They sounded good. Right. And it's a difficult job for the leaders, because they have this conflict of, hey, do I do what I think is the right list, or do I, sacrifice my own views for compromise or other people, right? So definitely can create some conflict. So what real life situations can this kind of represent? Because obviously it's kind of a silly scenario that, it's not something you think about every day. Janice says also difficult to follow along with the chat box while having spoken conversation with the other leaders. So the situation, for the situation, it wasn't too bad. Yes, definitely makes it confusing. But think about it. If you were in an office environment, in a meeting, and you have 10, 15 people in this meeting, and everyone has their own opinions, and you have to come up with an idea in a limited amount of time, that's going to happen, right? Yeah. So definitely in the workplace, you guys are going to be doing a lot of team projects throughout your program at Full Sail. They really emphasize that here. So you're going to be working with other people. And in the beginning, your first few classes is not always going to be with someone in your degree program. So you might have very different perspectives. So definitely something that happens. So what is misconception about conflict? What does this mean? Well, it's a myth that conflict is bad and should be avoided, because it's inevitable. Conflict is just part of life. It's not something that's bad. It's not something to avoid. It's just something to kind of work through. Conflict represents a misunderstanding or breakdown in communication. Not necessarily. Conflict can happen even when everyone's taking turns and being polite and everyone sharing their opinion. You can still have disagreements, right? You're not going to have the same views as everybody else. All conflict can be resolved to everyone's satisfaction. We just said that, right? There's no way that you can really solve a situation like this and everyone is happy 100%. So that's one of the things about conflict is we kind of sometimes have to say, okay, gets to be a point where I have to give up a little bit of what I would want in this situation and compromise. So this brings us to conflict management style. So we're going to take a little quiz to find out what your dominant conflict management style is. Now, some of you might have, I want you to think about this experiment that we just did with this ethical dilemma and see if it kind of fits in with how you handled the conflict today. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, relating it back to this activity once we're done the quiz and you guys get your results. So I need you to take out a pen and a piece of paper, or you can use the notes in your phone or on your iPad or wherever, but you have to number, but instead of numbers, list the letters A through O down. And then I'm going to read a statement to you, and you're going to answer it with 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. So the key is here on the screen. So I'm going to read each statement once. Don't overthink it. Just basically, what does your gut say? Okay, this is not an exact science, but it gives us an idea. I'm just going to read it one time. So if you miss one, I'll put up the questions at the end for you to catch up. All right. I'm going to put the hands down. Okay, raise your hand if you need more time to write your letters down. Okay, Ashley needs more time. And then when you're ready, just put your hand down and then I'll know it's okay to start. Okay, I'm going to start. Okay, first is A. I argue my case with peers, colleagues, and coworkers to demonstrate the merits of the position I take. So next to A, put 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. B. I try to reach compromises through negotiation. C. I attempt to meet the expectation of others. D. I seek to investigate issues with others in order to find solutions that are mutually acceptable. E. I am firm and resolved when it comes to defending my side of the issue. F. I try to avoid being singled out, keeping conflict with others to myself. G. I uphold my solutions to problems. H. I compromise in order to reach solutions. I. I trade important information with others so problems can be solved together. J. I avoid discussing my differences with others. K. I try to accommodate the wishes of my peers and colleagues. L. I seek to bring everyone's concerns out into the open in order to resolve disputes in the best possible way. M. I put forward middle positions in efforts to break deadlocks. N. I accept the recommendations of colleagues, peers, and coworkers. O. I avoid hard feelings by keeping my disagreements with others to myself. All right, here are the questions. Raise your hand if you need more time. Okay, a few of you need more time, so go ahead and put your hand down when you're ready, and we'll move on to the next step. Sorry. Just checking on my battery. Okay, you don't need to total up anything yet. Sorry, I should have said that. Just want to make sure that you have all the numbers. All right, make sure you put your hand down when you're done. Uh-oh, we're all gonna run out of batteries. I'll talk fast. All right, wait on Antonio, David, and George to finish. Remember, you're not adding up anything yet. You're just answering the questions, or the statements, I should say. All right, just waiting on David and George. Do, 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 do. All right, just waiting on George. Come on, George, you can do it. Sorry, I'm distracting you. Like, I could do it if you stopped talking. Come on, George. Okay, we're ready. All right, so now let's score. So you're going to add up your numbers for A, E, and G, and that's going to be your total for the shark. Then you're going to add up your numbers for D, I, L, and that's going to be your total for owl. And then do the same for turtle, teddy bear, and fox. So go ahead and do that now. I'll try to stop chit-chatting. Okay, raise your hand if you need more time. Okay, woo. And then just put it down when you're ready. So once you have your number for each style, the number that is the lowest is your dominant style of dealing with conflicts. So we're just waiting on Ashley, George, and Micah. If you got a tie, then just think about both of them and how they relate to how you handle conflict, because that's possible. The lowest score is your dominant style. All right, so here, wait, let me send out a poll and see what we got in here. Where is it? Where is the primary? What is your primary animal? Let's see. Because I know some of you are putting, if you have a tie, just pick one. Okay, 44% of you have voted, so hopefully you're voting now so we can see what animals we have. Not a lot of turtles. We're at 59% voted. Okay, I'll give you 10 more seconds. Okay, 75%. Okay, so for those of you who did it, we have highest is owl, 33%. Then next is teddy bear at 27. Oops, sorry, share. Then we have fox for 18, shark for 15, and turtle for 6. So you're probably wondering, well, what the heck does that mean? Well, now we're going to find out. Let me hide the poll so we can have our full screen again. Shark. And if we sing that song, I will not do it. My kids sing it all the time. So, shark is competing nature. Sharks are assertive. They also do not hesitate to use aggressive behavior when needed. Relationships are not a priority when they're solving a conflict. They are very goal-oriented and have a need to win. So, when is it appropriate to be a shark? Because there's pros and cons to each of these styles, right? Well, it's good to use this style if the conflict involves personal differences that are hard to change. So you're talking to someone about politics and they have completely opposite views than you. You might just be like, well, I'm going to be a shark because they're not going to change their mind anyway. Or if personal relationships aren't really important and it's kind of a critical situation, you need to make a decision quickly. Or when others are taking advantage of non-competing behavior and you're going to step up and show your sharky side. So the positive of this style is that decisions can be made without compromise, and a lot of times sharks can get their way if they're dealing with other styles that aren't very shark-like. But the con is it could breed resentment from others because if you're a shark, like with personal relationships, sometimes that can cause problems. You might need to tone it down a little bit if the relationship's really important. So some of you, Ashley says, it sounds like my mother. Yeah, so some of you are like, oh, that's so me. Oh, it's this person. What's that person? So yeah, I'm sure we all know some sharks, right? Or we are, sharks. I know I'm definitely not a shark. It's not my dominant style. But when it comes to my kids, yeah, my shark side comes out. So it's it's possible to relate to a little bit of each of these styles depending on what type of conflict we're experiencing. Yeah, my mama bear. All right. So let's talk about the turtle next, is avoiding nature. So turtles have an avoiding nature when it comes to conflict. So they just are unassertive. They don't even want to be involved in the conflict. They kind of hide in their shell. They withdraw. They're passive. They don't really speak up and share what's bothering them because they dislike conflict so much. And it's interesting because a majority of the Americans use this style. So we do not like dealing with conflict. We just kind of pretend that everything's okay. So, when is it appropriate to be a turtle? Because remember, there's pros and cons to each. Well, if you have little chance in satisfying what you want anyway, and you're like, well, I don't want to give myself a headache arguing with someone who's never going to see my point of view, so I'm just going to not say anything. Or when confrontation will hurt the working atmosphere, sometimes this style is appropriate. Or when others can more effectively resolve the issues, so you just take a step back and you say, I'm going to let the experts take care of this. Or when delaying the time of the conflict is necessary. So the positives of a turtle is, well, they help maintain the relationships. People don't mind turtles all the time because they're like, oh, hey, I can do what I want. I can say what I want. And they're just going to sit there, take it. But the cons are, obviously, because turtles hate conflict, they can get walked all over and they don't let anyone know there's a problem. So since turtles avoid conflict altogether, people are sometimes not even aware that the turtle has a problem. You know, and sometimes turtles can be passive aggressive, right? Like if you tend to avoid conflict, then you just start to be a little bit passive aggressive, and then someone's like, well, what's wrong with you? And you're like, well, this time 3 weeks ago when you said this to me, I got really upset. It's like we hold it in and then it just comes flying out, or it comes out passive aggressively. So let's move on. Bailey says, I was surprised that wasn't my dominant style. Yeah. It's pretty popular. Teddy bear is accommodating. Teddy bears are unassertive as well, but they're cooperative. They want everyone to work together. Everyone has a voice. Let's hear everyone's opinion because we want to be nice and want people to like us. We are people pleasers. They like harmony and connection are very important. So they also dislike conflict, but they're still willing to make other people feel comfortable, right? So it's appropriate to be a teddy bear when the relationship outweighs everything else, or when change is not important, or when harmony in the relationships is what's important, or when time is limited. So the positives is that rapport is maintained. People like teddy bears, right? Because they feel like, they care and they don't want to rock the boat too much, right? But the cons are they often ignore their own goals and get taken for granted because they are having those people-pleasing tendencies. All right, so let's move on to the fox. What's the fox all about? Compromise. The fox is assertive and cooperative, so they speak their mind, but they want to work together with everyone else. They're willing to sacrifice their personal goals if it means coming to a solution. They convince others to do the same. So, hey, we're not going to agree on this, so let's meet in the middle. And they value relationships and personal goals. So the relationships is important, but they also want to get the job done. So when is it appropriate to be a fox? Well, if you have an issue of great value and no simple solution, sometimes your only choice is to come up with something kind of in the middle. Or when conflicting people hold the same rank or power, then nobody can be like, okay, I'm in charge, I'm making that final decision. Or if you have all the time in the world. So some positives of a fox are that conflicts are removed and relationships remain stable. And the cons are that foxes compromise for the good of the goals, but it's not often the ideal outcome that they would like. Then finally, we have owls. I think that was the highest in here. Collaborating nature. They are assertive and cooperative, just like the fox, but they view the conflict as a problem that needs to be solved, and they view all parties equally. So they want to hear everyone's opinions and work together to come up with a solution that benefits everyone. So they're balancing the relationship, but also their own personal goals. So everybody kind of wins. So do you guys agree with what your results were? Yes. Okay. Now think back to our example that we did with our ethical dilemma. I bet that some of you who volunteered might lean towards fox or shark style. Sometimes the sharks I see when I do this activity really kind of come out and say, no, well, we need to make this decision, and this is what's important to me and this is why, and they're not argumentative, but they're very strong in their opinions. And then some of you who I know, like a couple people in the chat box said, oh my God, this was stressful. And I just, I let the leaders take charge. You might be more of a teddy bear. Like maybe you shared your opinion in the chat box, but you didn't want to like push it. That was probably if you're a teddy bear. And if you were a turtle, you probably were like, well, I'm completely shut down. I'm not even going to bother voicing my opinion. I'm just going to sit back and eat my popcorn. So Kelly says, I'm both assertive and unassertive. I'm confused. Okay, which one are you, Kelly? Which animals? Teddy bear and owl. No, teddy bear I think teddy bear is assertive. Let me go back and look. In the sense that teddy bears are willing to speak up, right? And owls are also willing to speak up, but owls are more likely to solve the problem. So teddy bears have, okay, yes, they're unassertive, okay, but they're cooperative. So you might fluctuate between those two styles depending on the situation. So if it's something that's really important to you and that you're really passionate about, you probably are more owl-like. And if it's a situation where you're talking to a friend or someone that you really care about, not upsetting them, then you're probably lean more towards your teddy bear style. So I mean, it depends. This is not a exact science. But if you know what style you are, you can kind of, when a conflict arises, think back, okay, what side is going to be the most helpful in this situation right now? Is it going to be my sharky side, or is it going to be my owl side, right? And that's going to help you navigate those situations because they will arise. All right, so let's do a little example with this orange. Person A is a shark and person B is me. We both want that orange. So think of me as neutral. Who gets the orange in this situation? Kind of yellow. Okay, I'm hearing a lot of different things. No, who gets it? We both want it. Who gets the orange? There's only one orange. Christopher, Ashley, yes. Antonio, yes. The shark, right? Because they are the aggressive ones. They are assertive. I'm going to take what I want. Shark wins, I lose. What about the turtle? We both want the orange. Who's going to get it? Bailey was the first one. Yeah, me. I'm going to get it because the turtle's just going to hide in its shell, and I'm just going to take it. What about the teddy bear? You, B. Okay. That's right. The teddy bear wants to make me happy. So they're going to sacrifice their own needs for mine. Okay, now we have fox. Who gets the orange? Oops, sorry. Micah got it. Both. Split it. Yes, exactly. Because the fox is all about compromising. So, hey, I want it, you want it, so let's split it in half. Then we both win, but not technically. It's not 100%. Compromise, exactly. And what about the owl? Both. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of boths. Me, both split. Well, the owl's going to be like, well, why do you want the orange? Because I'm all about solving problems. And I say, I would like to make jam with the peel. And the owl says, I would like to eat the fruit. So we both win. The owl tried to solve the problem, didn't realize, hey, I didn't even want the fruit. Okay, clearly a very elementary example, but I just wanted to reinforce those different animal styles with you. Yes, you can actually take the peel and then you I think you boil it and it gets the flavor of the orange into the jam. Something like that. I don't know. Clearly I've never made jam before, but maybe I want to start. Okay. So, any questions about what we learned today? Yes, that's right, the zest. Yep. Any questions about what we talked about today? Any of the concepts? Or if you have any questions about any assignments? Okay, Ashley has a question on our assignment. Sure. So if you don't have any questions, feel free to go ahead and log out. As always, contact your instructor if you have any questions or concerned after this point. All right. For those of you who have questions and want to stick around, go ahead, Ashley. I'm going to unmute you. All right. What's your question?
Okay, on the image, I'm really confused on what we need to do. Like you have the picture of your daughter with the game piece and for the gamification.
Mhm.
How do you want to? Because like the only thing that'd be motivational to me that I've actually created would be my book cover
Yeah, so for
with the
that,
next.
sorry that was confusing. I just posted that as an example of gamification, not necessarily as an example of what to do for the assignment. So I'll go back on there and find a previous student's example to post if that will help. But you're basically just making a motivational poster. So it can be an image that you've taken, or if you want to take a picture of your book cover and then, put a little quote with it or whatever, something that is visual. So an image or a drawing or whatever it is, and then something kind of that inspires you, some type of statement or something like that. It doesn't have to be too crazy.
Okay.
Make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and I'll post an example on our classes board so you have that.
All right. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
You're welcome. All right, Tristan. Question about assignment. Go ahead.
Yes. So the poster, it's just an image of motivation. We don't have to attach an audio overlay on it.
Nope. Just
Okay,
think of it as
just
like
image.
something that you would put on your fridge to
So it's like a
inspire
movie
you.
poster.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So you don't have to do any
Okay,
audio. I mean, if you
copy that.
want to, you can, but you don't have to do that. It's more of just a visual
Okay,
reminder. Okay?
sounds good. Mahalo. Have a good week.
Well, thank you. All right. Any other questions before I log us out? All right. Thank you everyone for participating. It was a great session today. Have a great day.